Alright, here we go again. We left off, we were talking about movement. Talking about movement because movement is important. Movement gets you from point A to point B. Sometimes that's in a permissive environment, which means you're not in any danger, or it's in a non-permissive environment in which you could lose your life, right? So, you got to take how you are addressed, how you are dressed, and how you are moving seriously. These things are very important to the Minuteman, to the guerrilla. We talked about, I'm recapping here. We talked about in the last video, we talked about moving slow and deliberate in non-permissive situations on foot. We talked about whether we should move at day or night. We talked about the threat of thermal or night vision use by the natives. We talked about rain. Most people hole up in the rain. Okay, nobody likes to be out there standing in the rain, right? Nobody likes that. So what happens? Most people will hole up during the rain. During the rain, they'll hole up. You might be moving. It's a good time to move during the rain because people don't like to be uncomfortable. That's just natural. Nobody wants to be cold and wet. So whatever you gotta think about these things, guys. You gotta think about, well, you know, if somebody doesn't like this, then people are generally the same, whether it is you or the enemy. They don't want to be cold and wet, so move when it's cold and wet. Move after the rain also. Just after the rain, everything's soaked. Your movement is going to be quieter. Those leaves are going to be wet. If they're big crinkly ones, when you move, don't step on them. Okay? Don't step on them. Well, how am I going to do? How am I going to move? I got all these leaves. I can't move anywhere. If I can't step on them, what am I going to do? Float across them? You know, that's the question, right? What do? You move deliberately. You move slowly and deliberately through that leaf matter across that area. And how do you do that? You got to learn some balance, number one. You got to learn to balance, and you got to learn to move leaf litter with the toe of your boot. And then you put your toe down underneath the leaves. Put your foot down underneath the leaves. And you continue to just move forward like that. You ever watch a deer when it's trying to be quiet and it thinks that there's a predator around? First, it'll stand still. The second thing that it'll do, once it's beyond that initial time that it believes that there might be a threat and it's going to be fight or flight, and then, well, not fight for a deer, right, but flight. Okay, so once it's beyond that initial time when it got alerted, it will stand still for a minute, and it will listen really good, and it will look for movement. As soon as you move, that deer will know that you are there. It will zero right in on you. I've seen it. And humans are the same way. Okay? So, we're talking about the movement of the feet though, right? So after that initial situation there, where it perceived a possible threat and it stood still for a minute or two, and it decided it was going to creep off, what does it do? A deer will push any kind of stuff, sticks or leaves or whatever, just slightly out of the way. They only got a foot that big. They don't got to move it much. But they will move that crap out of the way, and then they will put their foot down on the earth underneath the stuff that will make a lot of racket. And this is what you need to do. Now, using waterways. You can use waterways in a couple different manners. Alright? Coffee. I only get about 3 or 4 slugs out of this 12-ounce mug, and then it's done. I gotta fill it again. So after about 40 cups, I'm good. So, using waterways, right? You gotta learn to use waterways. You need foot powder in your patrol pack because you gotta take care of your feet. But you gotta learn to use waterways. And so many guys, I've seen it too many times. Trained soldiers, they're just slapping through the creek, right? They walk and you hear them. You hear every movement through the creek because they're splashing water and stuff. But I'm going to teach you how to move through water on foot. I'm going to teach you right now how to do it. This is how to do it. Here's a boot. And I'm gonna make these tiger stripes because I like tiger stripes. So he's got his little tiger stripe, uniform here, right? And then he's got his strap. Remember I was talking about the straps? He's got the strap there holding that down around the ankle of the boot. Alright? It's got that. It keeps the leeches from going down in there. Because the leeches will never get to the top. The leeches will be down around here and they won't be able to get up in those trousers. Right? But let's talk about walking through water. Right now this water is just above his ankles. He's wearing some Altama jungle boots, or he's wearing some Altama water shoes, right? Like you wear with flippers and stuff, right? Understand where I'm coming from? So he's wearing something that's good for wet weather. He ain't wearing no socks, by the way, because wearing socks is a bad idea when you're getting your feet wet all the time. Like that, you want to just get your feet out of there, dry them off, put on some foot powder. Alright, so, but when you move through this water, I got 6 minutes, so pay attention. When you move through this water, here is the crest of the water, right there, in that creek. You see that wavy line? I made it wavy just for you. Alright. This boot will never go above the crest of the water when he takes a step. You will not ever take your foot out of the water when you are walking in a creek. At the very most, just above the sole will be at the crest, and it will not come out of the water. It will not. Because you're going to be gliding. So right here is the muddy bottom of the creek. So you will just pick up your boot slightly and move it forward and then plant it back down. And then you will take another step. As you can see, this flickman water is right here. And I never got my boot out of the water. Because when you take your boot out of the water, several things happen. First, there's a sound from the boot coming out of the water. That's the first thing. The second thing that happens is there is water dripping off of your boots back into the water, making that sound. The third thing is that there is the sound of your foot sliding across the water to go back down into the water, and it is pushing, it is making a wake in the water, and it's splashing out from the bottom of your boot, from the sole of your boot, as your boot goes back in the water. Alright? So you do not take your foot out of the water. You do not do that. If at all possible, do not take your foot out of the water. Now, we're moving through a creek. We're talking about using waterways here. And we are talking about moving quietly. So this is the manner that you walk through water. Right? A lot of you desert rats out there who have seen nothing but sand for 20 years, that's a tool for your toolbox. Alright. Another thing is some of you fellas might live down in the bayous, right? You might be in any of those coastal states where you got swamps, right? Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, all those places you got swamps, right? We got some swamps here too, but I ain't near any of them, so I'm not worried about it. But those places where you got waterways, you can use a kayak, right? Don't buy a neon green one. Don't buy an orange one. Get a drab colored one that will blend in. You can make it look marshy if you want. Do a little paint job on it if you want. Use a kayak. Make sure you got room for your kit in there. You might buy a two-person kayak so you can stow your kit in one section of the kayak and you be in another. And make sure you got a line on it in case you dump it. Right? So you don't lose all your stuff. And make sure everything's in dry bags. Remember we talked about that a few videos ago? Dry bags. A bag of dry bags. So you got a main dry bag and then you got all of your compartmentalized kit inside of that dry bag, inside of your ruck. Alright? Well, I'll tell you, I could talk on this stuff for days. But outside of this, I got so many things to do. But I feel that I just need to help in this way, giving all of these little things, these little tidbits here and there to help you guys to be prepared. Because I'm telling you right now, it's gonna hit the fan. If it isn't Civil War, it's gonna be Revolutionary War. And once that powder keg goes, man, I hope that you're prepared for the long haul, because it will be a rough one. Because it's not like back in the days of yore. This is a whole different animal. We got a very large problem to deal with. Trump wins. If he doesn't go to jail, prison, whatever, you know, they weaponize the judicial system against him. If he wins, there's probably going to be civil war, right? Because I am not shaking hands with a Democrat, right? I'm not. I don't believe in that come together crap. No. I don't shake hands with the devil. I'm on my side, they're on their side. That's it. And if they somehow put Trump in prison, if they decide to do their dictatorship with Clown, that Mr. Potato Head, in a dictatorship, man, it's going to go to the Second American Revolution. Guaranteed. I've been talking about this for a few years. You guys know it's coming. Better have food and water plan. You better have a plan for a lot of different things. Everybody's been talking about this stuff till they're blue in the face. Man, I'll tell you, I sure wish I had some trusted buddies. But it's just me. I'll get by. I'm just slippery like that. We'll see you again.